When people are against the Illuminati, then they get punched in the face all the time. The press hates them, and nobody likes them.
Got to spend a minute on the Obamas, because there seems to be some momentum picking up in the rumor mill about their marriage. All right, I'm going to bring you.
Was Barack Obama's presidency just smoke and mirrors, an illusion wrapped in hope, hiding truths the public was never supposed to uncover? That's the question lighting up the internet right now. Old rumors are back with a vengeance, and nobody threw gasoline on the fire quite like Katt Williams. And in a viral comedy bit that's been spreading like wildfire, Katt didn't just crack jokes, he ripped into the glossy image of America's first black president. While most people still salute Obama for his charm and cool-headed style, Katt went way off script. He straight up called Obama a white-friendly black man, basically saying he was a polished product made to please the mainstream.
Have you heard the rumor that Barack Obama and Jennifer Aniston had an affair that ended his marriage? People that I respect, some that I even love, who may or may not watch this show.
Not represent the streets he came from? That wasn't just comedy, it felt like a full-blown call-out. And while the crowd might have laughed, the message had people doing a double take. Was the Obama we all watched truly a groundbreaking symbol? Or was he carefully manufactured and Katt didn't hit the brakes there? He dropped hints about something even deeper, like cultural engineering. Williams wasn't sugarcoating anything when he said Obama's time in office wasn't about shaking things up, but about keeping things in line. And now, those once dismissed rants are sounding more like warnings than jokes. Because as the country wrestles with what the Obama years really left behind, one debate is blowing up fast: the push for LGBTQ mentors in schools. And that's got people asking, what kind of priorities were actually being set during his presidency? Connecting the dots here isn't a reach, and a lot of folks already have. For years, critics have claimed Obama was quietly pushing what they called a pro-homosexuality agenda.
She's doing great in the school she currently attends, and our attitude is that if you have a teenager and you really want to make sure that they never talk to you again, then pull them out of high school right in the middle.
Yeah, you're right.
Of sophomore year. So, look, they've made so many sacrifices.
They have, and they didn't get to decide that.
Exactly. So I want to make sure that they get.
It's a heavy phrase, no doubt, but one that keeps bouncing around in conservative spaces like an echo that won't die out. During his presidency, LGBTQ visibility didn't just rise, it exploded. From the rainbow lights shining on the White House to sweeping federal protections, Obama's time in office became a turning point. Some saw it as overdue justice. Others called it a step too far. Fast forward to today's classrooms, and the conversation's only gotten louder. Now, it's not just about teaching kids to respect diversity. It's about whether schools should bring in mentors specifically chosen because they identify as LGBTQ. Some call it inclusion, others indoctrination. So the real question is, was this a natural social evolution or a shift that was strategically planned years ago? Then came the spark that reignited everything, Joan Rivers' wildest street interview ever. Just weeks before her tragic death during a routine throat procedure, Rivers casually said what some called outrageous and others called truth.
And that's the thing is, so the Bidens and the Obamas hate each other because Michelle Obama is very good friends with Hunter Biden's ex-wife. So that's led to a significant problem where they don't like Hunter, and if you don't like Hunter, Joe doesn't like you. So I would not be surprised if Holmes is right on with this of like, oh, well, why don't we do this?
It's like, oh man, you give us problems, maybe you can have a problem.
We already have a homosexual president, she told a reporter, cool as ever. You know Michelle is a transgender. Boom, the internet went crazy. Some folks laughed it off, others were shocked stiff, but there was also a quiet crowd that didn't laugh. They listened. Rivers didn't flinch, she didn't correct herself, and when pushed to explain, she calmly doubled down. A transgender, we all know. But wait, who is we? And what made her so bold, so sure to say it like it was common knowledge? Let's get one thing straight. Joan Rivers lived for controversy. She roasted everybody, clowned on every group at least once, and wore her TV bans like trophies. But even for her wild standards, this was different. This wasn't about bad outfits or botched lip fillers. This hit straight at the heart of the Obama legacy, and then, just weeks later, she was gone. Not from illness, not from some long-standing condition, from a routine medical procedure, a simple throat checkup that spiraled into chaos when, as later reports showed, her oxygen levels crashed, and nobody moved fast enough to save her. Some say coincidence, others say no way. Online sleuths jumped on it fast. Conspiracy theories spread like wildfire.
And for me, going high is not losing the urgency or the passion or the rage, especially when you are justified in it. Going high means finding the purpose in your rage. You know, rage without reason, without a plan, without direction is just more rage.
Some claiming it was an assassination by neglect. The idea, Rivers had said too much, and someone made sure she'd never speak again. What made things worse? The clinic later admitted the procedure wasn't even authorized. On top of that, they settled a malpractice case with her daughter, Melissa. Now, the Obamas were never officially tied to her death, not even close. In fact, President Obama even sent Melissa a handwritten letter praising Joan for her wit and brilliance. To some, that was just respectful, presidential, but to others, it looked a lot like cleanup, because if her wild claims were truly nonsense, why go out of your way to show such polished grace? For critics, that wasn't diplomacy. It was classic damage control. And don't forget, Joan Rivers wasn't the only one stirring the pot. An old interview from Larry Sinclair suddenly resurfaced, dragging wild claims back into the spotlight. Now, this dude's got a record, a long one, and plenty of exaggerations in his past. But that didn't stop the internet from losing its mind when he popped back up. Sinclair claimed he met Obama in the late 90s at a bar, did a substance that rhymes with Cain, and had a not-so-friendly hotel meetup. Is he reliable? Not in court. But the timing of his comeback raised some serious eyebrows. Then Tucker Carlson gave him a platform, and boom, online threads lit up, conspiracy channels went wild, and suddenly, Joan Rivers' old comments started sounding brand new to a whole new crowd.
I mean, there's, not to add insult to injury, but there's a Daily Mail report out today saying Kamala Harris's marriage may be on the rocks. Like everybody's on the rocks. Again, I will say I love the Daily Mail, but the sourcing appeared weak. It was like people who know the couple, but like, I don't know if it's any better than that. But they're saying she's blaming him in part for her loss because he turned out to be such a hot mess liability. You buy it?
Whether you think it's all fiction or there's something buried in there, one thing's for sure. The smoke hasn't cleared, and that's exactly why the fire won't die down. Because now it's not just about who Barack Obama was, it's about what kind of legacy he left behind. Take the LGBTQ mentorship debate in schools. This didn't appear out of nowhere. That conversation's been building for over a decade, so people are starting to ask, was this the hope and change everybody signed up for? Or was it the fine print nobody bothered to read? And just when things seemed to cool off, boom, more whispers. They started in the comments and ended up on airwaves. Talk that Barack and Michelle are no longer really a couple, that they're living separate lives, that Michelle skipped Trump's inauguration and Jimmy Carter's funeral because, as the rumors say, she just couldn't fake it anymore.
So the truth about Jen and Barack is that there is no truth.
There is
it
no
is
truth.
Untrue. You know Barack Obama.
I've met him once.
Met him once.
I know Michelle more than him.
What is there a truth about you and Michelle that we should know?
That is not true.
But what happens when all those wild rumors start connecting like puzzle pieces? When Joan Rivers' final interview stops sounding like comedy and starts feeling like a confession? When people stop asking if the Obamas are hiding something and start wondering just how deep it goes? That's where the internet's obsession is heading, and it's getting intense. Because here's the real twist. It's not just what Joan said, it's how she said it. Calm, cold, like it was plain as day. She didn't hesitate, didn't laugh it off. When asked to explain her bombshell claim, she simply said, "It's okay, it's not a bad thing," and walked away. No smirk, no side eye, just dropped the mic and kept it moving. And then weeks later, she was gone. The timing, creepy, too close for comfort. Could Joan Rivers' sudden death, right after her boldest on-camera moment, really be just a tragic fluke? Or did she say something that wasn't supposed to go public? What if that joke wasn't a joke at all, but a quiet warning disguised as comedy? It gets even stranger once you dig into the details of Joan's final hours. Federal health officials later found out the clinic she visited was completely unprepared for emergencies. They ignored protocols, skipped steps, and made mistakes that shouldn't have happened. Her anesthetic dose, higher than it should have been. Her vitals crashing for minutes before anyone acted. And here's the kicker. The doctors reportedly started a procedure she never even signed off on. We're talking about Joan Rivers, a global icon in a New York City clinic. Yet somehow, nobody caught the warning signs. Something about that doesn't sit right. How does a world-famous icon like Joan Rivers just vanish from life over a mistake that should have been avoidable?
She is not sorry.
They are looking forward. All the women in your life are
all
looking
the women in
forward.
my life are looking forward to being able to, live a more normal life.
Yeah, but still not entirely normal. Obviously, everybody's under the microscope at all
A little
times.
bit more.
And you're staying in Washington, D.C., which is unusual for an exiting president.
And not just any time. Weeks after dropping the most controversial remarks ever made about the most tightly protected couple in American politics. Maybe it's just people connecting dots that aren't there. Or maybe, just maybe, those dots were never supposed to be connected. Because when someone as bold, fearless, and loud as Joan Rivers suddenly goes quiet for good, under a cloud of unanswered questions, people can't help but ask, did speaking her mind cost more than her career? And even more haunting, what else was she about to reveal? Joan had already claimed Obama was the first homosexual president and called Michelle a transgender on camera. Not guessed, not wondered. She said, "We all know." Then, silence. Forever. No follow-up, no retraction, just a wall of mystery. And there are still questions that never got real answers. Why was an unlicensed doctor allowed to take selfies with Joan while she was unconscious? What happened to the surveillance footage from inside the clinic that magically disappeared during the investigation? And how did a routine outpatient visit spiral into a fatal mess, with nobody held criminally accountable? But this isn't just about Joan Rivers anymore. This rabbit hole, it tunnels deep right into the heart of Hollywood's bright, distracting lights. Because if Obama wasn't just a politician, but a cultural architect, then the biggest stage for his influence might not have been the White House, but the entertainment industry itself. Over time, we watched as TV and movies transformed. Stories that once lived on the fringe suddenly became front and center. Inclusion didn't just happen, it became the industry's golden rule. And while it came wrapped in glitter, smiles, and rainbow flags, some insiders have started to question if this massive wave of progressive storytelling was really grassroots, or if it was all strategically planned from the top down. And guess what name keeps bubbling up in the mix? Jennifer Aniston. Yeah, nobody saw that one coming. But suddenly, tabloids were buzzing, linking Obama and Aniston like they were Hollywood's latest low-key power duo. Rumors flew, Checkout Aisle mags went nuts, and the late-night shows had a field day. Then came Aniston's response, absolutely untrue. She told Jimmy Kimmel she's only met Obama once and knows Michelle better. Clean, polite denial. Case closed, right? Not quite. Because even with that statement out there, the chatter didn't fade. It just shifted. Now, people aren't even focused on whether Jen and Barack were romantically linked. The real question is way deeper. Was this connection ever about romance at all, or was it always about strategy? See, Obama's post-White House life hasn't been quiet, not even close. Through Higher Ground Productions, he's inked deals with major streaming giants, dropped documentaries, and planted himself right in the middle of pop culture's control panel. And Aniston, with her Apple TV hits, squeaky clean public image, and cross-generational appeal, she checks all the boxes. Influence? Check. Trust? Big time. Reach? Global. So ask yourself, is it really that far-fetched? Two of America's most beloved public figures, one political, one cultural, teaming up not for romance but to gently steer public opinion in a certain direction? That's not a wild theory. It might just be the perfect distraction. If public trust is the real currency, then Obama and Aniston are straight-up gold bars. And if stories can shape how people vote, what they value, and even how they see themselves, then who better to deliver that influence than Hollywood's most trusted faces? And this is where folks start to get a little uneasy. Because if Obama's time in the White House was just Act 1, then Hollywood might be Act 2. Not politics through policy, but persuasion through storytelling. an entire generation has been raised on Netflix, Hulu, and prestige TV binges. But most never notice how often political ideas are baked right into the plots. So here's the big question. Was it just a coincidence that shows pushing progressive messages took over prime time right as Obama exited the political stage and stepped into the entertainment world? Or was that the plan all along? Some believe these ideas were sitting in the wings, just waiting on the right platforms, the right producers, and the perfect faces to sell them to the masses. And behind the scenes, longtime industry insiders, off the record of course, have hinted that Obama's influence in Hollywood goes way deeper than people think. We're talking about input on casting choices, script directions, even green lights on storylines. Whispers of a quiet cultural alliance have emerged. A tight-knit brain trust of A-listers, producers, and showrunners who seem to all be moving in the same direction. Whether that mission is heartfelt or carefully managed, that's where things get cloudy. But even casual viewers have noticed, shows with heavy-handed social messages, they get fast-tracked to awards, plastered across timelines, and flooded with glowing reviews like clockwork. And if the one pulling strings behind the curtain just so happens to be a former president with a production company and a global reach, that wouldn't exactly be a first. History's full of cases where soft power quietly bent reality into whatever shape the powerful wanted. Meanwhile, the whispers won't quit, they're just mutating. Divorce rumors, political distance, public events where Michelle is nowhere to be seen. People noticed her absence from big moments, like Trump's inauguration or Jimmy Carter's funeral. And they've definitely clocked the cold energy and awkward body language during the few times she and Barack do show up together. Then came a podcast, hosted by plugged-in Washington insiders, that casually dropped a bomb. The Obamas live separate lives. This wasn't just internet gossip from some sketchy blog. These were claims floating around political circles with real connections, and just when talk of their shaky marriage and Obama's media power moves hit a boiling point, boom, another name crawled back into the spotlight. Larry Sinclair. Yeah, that Larry Sinclair, the guy mainstream media wrote off years ago. His wild claims about a late-night drug-fueled limo ride with Obama in 1999 were tossed aside as nonsense. But now, the story's back, and it's louder than ever. Sinclair said he and Obama had a very specific, very graphic encounter on a cold Chicago night, before the world ever knew who Barack Obama was. The media ripped him apart back then, called him a fraud, a con man. But now, with alt-media platforms picking it up and a high-profile interview making headlines, people are rethinking it. Because here's what makes this twist so explosive. It's not just what Sinclair claimed. It's the idea that huge pieces of Obama's past may have been edited, erased, or locked away entirely. And the mainstream press, they rushed in to shut it down. Again, yeah, Larry Sinclair later failed a polygraph test, live at a press conference. But here's where it gets weird. The coverage just stopped. No follow-ups, no deeper digging. No attempts at independent verification. The whole thing was shut down so fast, some folks now wonder, was this just a hoax being tossed aside? Or was it something way more dangerous? Maybe it wasn't about protecting people from lies, but protecting a legacy. Because if even one piece of Sinclair's story has any truth to it, just one messy little detail that checks out, then what else has been wiped clean? What else about Obama's rise was quietly locked away to keep the image of the first black president flawless and untouched? And that's when things start getting uncomfortable. In a world where celebrities can't sneeze without it trending, where one tweet from 10 years ago can wreck a career overnight, how did someone as globally watched as Obama manage to dodge this firestorm for over a decade? Whether Sinclair is a lying opportunist or a silenced whistleblower, his claims hit a nerve, a deep one. The fear that we're not just watching a tightly crafted political brand, but living inside a scripted legacy where the juiciest, most crucial chapters never made it to print. And just when you think the noise is dying down, it sparks back up. Meghan McCain, no stranger to political chaos and daughter of a late U.S. senator, went on air and dropped a bomb. She'd heard talk of a possible Obama divorce, not from gossip sites or anonymous comments, but from serious journalists, people with real access, people in the know. Now toss in the resurfaced claims from right-wing influencers saying Jennifer Aniston has been spotted at private Obama events. And suddenly, what once felt like wild fantasy is starting to look a little too real for comfort. A story nobody seems eager to confirm, yet nobody's bold enough to deny completely. Here's where it gets really strange. Every time there's a denial, another breadcrumb appears, an odd post, a missed public appearance, or some silent tension that fans can feel but can't quite explain. And let's be real, America lives for a power couple, but it thrives on a good scandal, especially when that couple built their image on unity, elegance, and transparency. Even a tiny whisper of betrayal, it hits like a punch to the gut. But maybe this story was never just about divorces, rumors, or who's holding hands in some polished Instagram pic. Maybe it's about power, the kind that doesn't need the Oval Office anymore, the kind that doesn't run on votes but runs the conversation. Because maybe Obama's biggest legacy isn't in his speeches, or his laws, or his 8 years in D.C. Maybe it's the grip he still has, through streaming platforms, cultural shifts, and carefully shaped narratives that shape how we live, how we vote, and what we believe is real. His presidency ended, but his reach, it never did. So are we finally ready to look past the headlines and ask the real questions? Or are we just scratching the surface of a perfectly polished illusion? You tell us. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are these all just coincidences, or is something way bigger going on? Make sure to like, subscribe, share, and turn on notifications so you never miss a drop. See you in the next video. Stay sharp, stay curious, and keep looking twice.